Hey everybody, today I'm going to be doing a comparison video between the three different models of M18 fuel high torque impact wrenches made by Milwaukee. Now two of these are going to be half-inch drive versions, one will be a 3/4 inch drive version, and overall as far as a size, weight, and footprint they're going to be pretty much identical. In fact, the only way to really tell them apart from the exterior is going to be the anvil on each, with the 2762 having a half-inch pin detent anvil. The 2763 is going to have a half-inch friction ring anvil, and the 2764 would have a 3/4 inch friction ring anvil. But what really makes them stand apart is going to be the program power levels. All three have two different speed or power modes, a low speed and low power mode, and then a high speed and high power mode. So what we'll do in this video is really look at the differences side by side, and we're going to be doing torque testing. Now I'll not only be doing reverse torque testing with the Skidmore mounted on the bench with the reverse threaded nut and bolt for measuring reverse torque, but over here in the shop press I have another Skidmore with a right hand thread nut and bolt for measuring forward torque. And you'll be able to see exactly which one of these is going to be right for you. As far as design features go, they're going to be pretty much the same, with the red portion being a very hard plastic, the black portion being a very soft rubber, and then this front nose cone is going to be made out of metal. Now I also want to point out they all feature the same LED light just above the trigger, and you can activate it simply by barely pressing it in, and then you could use it as a flashlight. The other thing to keep in mind as you're using it, it's going to stay lit up, and it's going to keep whatever you're working on fully illuminated. One thing to keep in mind if you're looking at a half-inch or 3/4 inch impact wrench is to really match it up with whatever size fasteners you're typically dealing with. In this case, I have two identical impact sockets. Both are 3/4 inch drive, and they're 2 3/8 inches across. Now they both are going to work with these impact wrenches, however with the 2763, which is the half-inch version, in order to use that impact socket, I would first have to install a half-inch to 3/4 inch impact adapter. Now this is going to do two things. Number one, it's going to create something called torque loss, which is really just a loss in power, because it is creating an additional point of contact in between the tool and the fastener. And then more importantly, because we had to add on the additional length of that adapter, it makes the overall tool much longer than the standard 3/4 inch impact wrench, directly with a 3/4 inch impact socket. Now alternatively, let's say we wanted to use the 3/4 inch drive along with a half-inch impact socket. Now both of these are going to be identical. It's going to slide on the 2763 with no problem at all, but in order to use it with the 2764 I would have to have a 3/4 inch to half-inch impact adapter. So after that slides on, we're going to have the exact same problems of torque loss as well as added length. And you can see the tremendous difference between the two of these. As far as the different anvil styles go, you can see the two different versions that they offer. Number one is going to be the 2762 with its pin detent anvil, which is designed to hold onto a socket and not let you remove it without physically pressing that pin in. And then the 2763, as well as the larger 2764, are going to have this friction ring anvil. That's designed for mechanics, and it will allow you to remove or install sockets very quickly. Now for the reverse working torque test, I'll be using a Skidmore Wilhelm Model R with a 1 1/4 inch bolt and a 2 inch nut. With this combination, I can accurately measure bolt tension in pounds up to 110,000. And when we convert that over by taking whatever the number is and dividing it by 70, it's going to give us a working torque rating. I'll be doing 3 different runs on each impact, alternating impacts between each run. And also I'll be changing out the battery packs between each run with a fully charged high capacity pack. In addition to this, I'll also be cleaning off all the lubricant and replacing it with a fresh coating of R-0050 test bolt lube from Skidmore Wilhelm. That'll be on the back of the nut, on the washer face as well as the threads, and it's specifically designed to work along with this unit to give us very accurate results. Now lastly, each impact is going to have a 15-second run time on each test, and I'll also be using brand new impact sockets. These are from Sunex, and it's a model 264 as well as a model 464, which would be the half-inch 2-inch version and then the 3/4 inch 2-inch version. So I want to thank Sunex for sending these over and allowing us to get very accurate results. Okay, we just finished up all the torque testing and the numbers were very consistent with each impact. The 2762 range between 64,500 and 66,000 pounds of bolt tension, with an average of 65,167. Divide that by a factor of 70 because of the nut and bolt combination we're using, it comes up with a working torque rating of 931 foot-pounds. The 2763 range between 70,000 and 72,500 pounds of bolt tension, with an average of 71,000. Divide that by a factor of 70 because of the nut and bolt combination, it comes in with a working torque rating on it of 1,014 foot-pounds. And then finally the 3/4 inch drive version, which is the 2764, range between 66,000 and 67,000 pounds of bolt tension, with an average of 66,333. Divide that by a factor of 70, it comes up with a working torque rating on it of 948 foot-pounds. Now for forward torque testing, I'll be using a Skidmore Wilhelm Model M with a 1 1/4 inch bolt and a 2-inch nut. Now these have right-hand threads and it's going to be able to accurately measure forward torque. And we're going to be testing mode 1 as well as mode 2 on each impact. Now in between each run, I will be changing out the lubrication on the back of the nut, on the washer face as well as the threads, with a fresh coating of R-0050 test bolt lube from Skidmore Wilhelm. We'll be doing a 15-second run on each test, and we're also going to alternate impacts in between each test. So what we'll do first is all the mode 1 torque testing. Then we're going to switch up to the high-powered mode 2 torque testing. Also in between each run, I will be changing out battery packs with fully charged high-capacity packs. That way we're going to get an accurate reading every time. Okay, we just got done with all the forward torque testing in mode 1 as well as mode 2, and all 3 impacts had very consistent results through each run. The 2762 in mode 1 had an average of 24,500 pounds of bolt tension. Divide that by a factor of 70 because of the nut and bolt combination we're using, and it gives it a working torque rating of 350 foot-pounds. The 2763's mode 1 is going to be the lowest out of the 3, coming in at an average of 7,167. Divide that by a factor of 70, and its mode 1 working torque rating is 102 foot-pounds. And finally, the 3/4 inch version, the 2764, had an average of 29,000 pounds of bolt tension. Divide that by a factor of 70, its mode 1 working torque is going to be 414 foot-pounds. Now finally, the mode 2 is going to be the high torque mode, with the 2762 having an average of 54,000 pounds of bolt tension. Divide that by a factor of 70, its Mode 2 torque rating is 771 foot-pounds. The 2763, which is the half-inch friction ring version, had an average of 60,667. Divide that by a factor of 70, its Mode 2 working torque rating is 867 foot-pounds. The 2764, which is going to be the 3/4 inch version, had an average of 55,333. Divide that by a factor of 70, and its working torque rating in Mode 2 is coming in at 790 foot-pounds. So now you've seen a side-by-side comparison between the 3 different models of the Milwaukee M18 Fuel high torque impact wrenches. Now what you want to keep in mind, the overall size, weight, and dimensions are going to be pretty much identical, and the only exterior feature that's going to be different is going to be the anvil on the front. The other main difference, of course, being the power or speed modes, with Speed Mode 1 being a low torque mode and Speed Mode 2 being a very high torque mode. Now through our torque testing in forward and reverse, the most surprising results was with the 2763. Even though it's not rated being the most powerful, it turns out that it really is, and the only mode that it didn't win the torque test in was Mode 1. Specifically because it's designed not to strip out lug nuts, and it keeps the power levels at under 100 foot-pounds. And really, when I got the 100 foot-pound rating on the Skidmore, I had to hold the trigger in for 15 seconds to get the gauge to go up that high. After 3 or 4 seconds, it wasn't really even reading, and you're probably looking at under 50 foot-pounds at that point. Now I do want to point out, even though the 2764 is not the most powerful, if we took the 2763, put a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch adapter on it, and then a 3/4 inch impact socket, it would have something called torque loss, and the power levels would drop below what the 2764 have. So if you work on heavy equipment or deal with very large fasteners, this is definitely going to be the way to go. The other thing to point out, although the 2762 would work for automotive uses, because it does have that locking pin, if you put a socket on there and that's lined up with the hole on the side of the socket, it's going to lock it in place until you take something and press the pin in to remove it. So if you don't do that and you line it up so the pin is not lined up with the hole, it could go flying off on you because nothing's really holding it in place. So just keep that in mind. As far as the safety aspect goes, if you're working next to your truck and you have the trigger held on, the socket could go flying off, dent the side of your truck, or chip the paint up. Now I do want to point out they all carry the exact same warranty, with a 5-year warranty on the tool and a 3-year warranty on the battery. So if you ever do have a problem with them, and it's not an abuse situation, Milwaukee will fix these for you free of charge. If you like this video, please click like. If you like my channel, please click subscribe. And thanks for watching.